Hi, in this episode of the Devlog series, I'll be improving upon the game and adding some more features to it. In my last episode, I added terrain maps, but I have changed the plan and decided that I would delete everything. I mean, like literally, because if you see carefully, the terrains here are don't match the width of the player, and it will be difficult for the player to actually move through the maze. So to fix this problem, I have decided to make the obstacle, or actually it's the maze wall here, into a prefab. And with that prefab, I'll be rearranging the whole maze and making much simpler mazes. So here's the 3 mazes I drew on my own, and yeah, I know these are much simpler than the earlier ones. I mean, if you think about it, it would take a freaking lot of time to make those complex mazes. So I decided that I would just make these mazes simple and keep it simple, right? Alright, so after making the mazeWall game object into prefab, I rearranged the whole thing, and now the player can actually move through the maze much easily. Alright, after placing all the obstacle blocks, I mean the maze walls, I've grouped them together in a single game object, which is walls, but I've named it obstacles for some reason, I don't know, but whatever. After doing that, I created a game manager game object. This game manager will control the flow of the game. Now, after creating the game object for the game manager, I created a script. A script called game manager, which will have certain functions. Here I put the function endMaze when the player reaches the end of the maze. So this function will be called when the player reaches the end of the maze, and that function will be executed when that happens. In order to actually initiate a trigger where the player reaches the end of the maze, we have to place an object at the end of the maze upon which, when it collides with it, it will activate the trigger. So since it's gonna collide with it and we don't want the player to actually see it, so I've made it invisible, and it will be like it's colliding with an invisible object, but which is actually a trigger. So it won't really collide with anything, it will just collide with the invisible object which it passes through. So after that, I implemented in the code, and in the onCollisionEnter function, I made the if statement, conditional statement, where if the object it hits has the tag end, then we call the function endMaze from the gameManager object. So to fix this, I had to make the gameManager object public so that I can actually reference it from the scene, and then it will be able to call that function from the gameManager object. Unfortunately, it's showing an error because I made the player as a prefab as well. So I have to reference the game object for the camera to the to the script again, so that it shows no error. So I fixed it like that. After that, instead of referencing the game manager object to the script, I have decided to use the find component of type game manager method to actually call the function endMaze directly, since it would be more convenient and I don't have to reference it all the time in the other mazes I'll make. So yeah, that's all I did. The game manager object will call the endMaze function and then initiate what will happen when the player reaches the end of the maze. In this case, we want it to display the message maze completed. This message will indicate that the player has reached the end of the maze and we can move on from there.